Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Thursday, and all of today's guests, including Farhan Lalji on his way to Penticton. Or maybe he's there already. I'm not really sure. Brought to you by the Vancouver Giants, celebrating their 25th anniversary season this year. Saturday, the Giants drop the puck on their season as they take on the expansion Penticton Vs. 7 o'clock, LEC. Rick will be there beside Toigo. Season tickets on sale now with custom payment plans available. Visit VancouverGiants.com for ticket info and to check out their theme night schedule for this season. As we head to the interior, Farhan Lalji of TSN on his way to Canuck training camp in Penticton. Farhan, thanks for doing this. How are you? Where are you?
I'm good. I'm in the parking lot right outside the South Okanagan Event Center.
Perfect.
Could you have imagined what Rick Dhaliwal would have looked like 25 years ago when the Giants first took to the ice? Before he got into all the crown and all those other things, just a fine, up and coming young man as opposed to a grizzled veteran like he is.
Yeah,
Donnie, you were right in the prime back in those days.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I don't want to think about it, but I'll tell you what. Little known fact, and I talked about this earlier in the week. Giants' first game at the Coliseum, play-by-play, Rick Dhaliwal.
Right there.
Yeah,
with Billy Wilms. Billy Wilms, great guy. My good pal, Billy Wilms.
And your voice even changed by then?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
Okay, your takeaway, I know you're in Penticton right now, but let's go back to yesterday.
Yeah.
Your takeaway from yesterday's press conference, Jim Rutherford, Adam Foote, etc., Patrick Elvine.
Yeah, it was good. And the one thing with Jim Rutherford, he's always going to be honest, refreshingly honest, right? Whether you have the cameras on or not, you're just going to get that. And when you've won this many cups, you get an unfiltered version. You don't have to worry about it. And I think he laid out the situation the Canucks are in as it relates to Quinn Hughes pretty seriously. That look, we could do everything possible. We could do all the right things, and we could win. And it still may not be enough because he might want to go for other reasons. But at the same time, what he's feeling this month could change next month, and a lot of things can happen over the course of the next 2 years before a decision has to be made by Hughes. So, and I think all of that is fair, right? Like, we're going to continue to speculate and discuss it because he's such a talent and he's so important to the city and the franchise, and that's just part of what fans and media do. We discuss it, and some people don't like it. They think you should just let the situation play out. But if that was the case, all three of us would be unemployed, right? Like, that's just not how the world works.
Yeah.
And then Patrick Elvine talking about the challenges of getting the second line center and how it's an evolving process, and they're gonna keep attempting to improve their team as we go. And then Adam Foote was interesting because he was asked about his systems and the style that he wants to play, and just him saying that, look, we want to be adaptable. I don't want to sit here and say I'm going to be a dump and chase team, or I'm going to be a defense first team, or whatever it happens to look like. We need to be adaptable depending on what we're going to face night in and night out, and everyone's going to have to figure out a way to do that. So let's see what that looks like. Do you need an identity? Do you need a base to fall back on, or can you have enough of everything in the tank that you can just be that chameleon that he talked about?
Okay, you're a coach, so what did you think about that? Because you so often hear with really successful teams, hey, we do what we do, and teams react to us. But he's saying, no, we're going to adapt and we're going to react to what the other teams are doing. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I'm mixed on it, and I think it was reflective of what he said when he first got hired, and when he talked about the fact that he has faced so many different types of players, and because of having to defend those types of players, it really taught him the game and how to think the game from the perspective of a really highly skilled player and what those guys might do, and the different challenges a defenseman has like that on a nightly basis. So, it kind of made sense then, but I do think that you need something that you can always fall back on. I do think that's important, and I think he'll find that, right? And that might be a process. Yep. Rick Tocchet last year went into training camp saying, we are going to work on our transition game, and if it, he didn't necessarily say if it comes at the expense of the defense, so be it, but that was kind of the net effect, and it came at the expense of the defense, and it didn't look good, and then all of a sudden they tried to dial it back. So I think he's going to see what this group looks like, see where their strengths are, see who's improved in certain areas, and then try to have his staples, as Rick Tocchet used to say, and what the priorities were. That, look, we can adapt in a number of areas, but here are our non-negotiables. There are 2 or 3 things we cannot deviate from, and then after that, we've got to adapt.
Okay, all eyes on Pettersson. Starts today. Hey, he aced the skating test the other day, and he's already had a shot on goal today. I mean, are we overdoing this? Just let him play and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, I think we're kind of at that point. But here's the thing, guys. It blew my mind yesterday when it was pointed out that this is year 8 for Pettersson. And we always want to talk about this guy like he's a young guy.
Yeah.
He is in the prime, and he has been for a while. So when you talk about things like preparation and maturity and emotions, and when you talk about all these things that you associate with a young player, where you're questioning it, because by the time you're 8 years in, all of those questions should be answered. That's the challenge, right? And that's why people are always looking, because when they finally signed him, a year and a half ago to the extension, a lot of people felt, Jim Rutherford included, that this was a weight on Pettersson. The contract situation was a weight, and it was supposed to alleviate it. All it's done is add to it. So he is playing with the weight of those dollars in that contract. So I want to see what he looks like. Okay, he's bigger, 6 kilos. Okay, he's aced the test. But let's see how much of his scoring comes back.
All right, huge game for the BC Lions in Calgary tomorrow. I see some injuries popping up for the Lions. I don't like this. James Butler, Jovan Katoy, and Jarrell Broxton. What's going on there? Are these guys going to play?
Nope. And I think they put out their roster today, and they're all listed as out. I think Gary Peters is a game time decision. I expect him to play. TJ Lee is going to start. Got all the reps. Look, this happens in football, and it happens in the CFL where teams have less depth, right? So it becomes a little more pronounced. And overall, I think the Lions have been relatively healthy. They lost Nathan Rourke for 2 games early. They've lost Dejan Allen, the offensive tackle, for the majority of the season. They could get him back in the next 2 weeks. So I think overall it's been pretty good from a health perspective, and now they're finally dealing with it. You look at James Butler. It's rare for a running back in this league to play 18 games. That rarely happens, and he's made it this far, and he's going to miss 1, maybe 2. None of these injuries are serious, but it comes at an important time. They've got an opportunity here to stay with Winnipeg, potentially move ahead of them, and really solidify a playoff spot. So it's tough, but I'm interested to see what Xander Horvath looks like. Kieran Poisson, I think, we kind of know what we've got there. I don't know that he's going to set the world on fire. And offensive line, when you lose your best offensive lineman, that's not a great thing. But we also have seen how they're getting the ball out early. And, Nathan Rourke's ability to see things quickly and move things along. So, I still think they're going to be okay, but that Calgary defense, getting Jalen Hutchings back, that's a big deal for them. So it's going to be a real challenge for BC on Friday.
There's athletes you cheer for, and I think Vernon Adams, I think a lot of people would agree, he's a guy you cheer for. And, he leaves here, he got caught in the mix with Rourke. They're 8-4. He's had a good year, but it is going to be interesting to see, Vernon Adams against his old team.
Yeah, Vernon will have a chip on his shoulder, and he should, because, look, if you were asking me to make the decision a year ago between Vernon Adams and Nathan Rourke, I would have taken Nathan Rourke, right? All that said, I still think Vernon Adams is a very, very elite quarterback in this league and is capable of winning games and capable of winning Grey Cups. So he has a right to feel scorned, especially when you consider the leadership effort that he made going into last season. Now, the last 2 weeks for Vernon haven't been great, right? Like, he won 1, lost 1, but the numbers haven't been what they were. And they've been dealing with a bit of an injury bug as well, primarily on defense. So I think they've had a bye. I think they're facing a really, really suspect defense in BC. So, this is kind of the definition of a get-right game for the Calgary quarterback. Now, will it turn out that way, or will some of the improvements BC saw against Ottawa carry over against a better offense in Calgary? We'll see. But I think Vernon Adams is going to be in every position to be better, and he'll absolutely be motivated.
Okay, and Farhan, before we let you go, a little NFL. Does Tom Brady belong in an NFL booth, in the Raiders booth? That looked really strange, and not just because he was in a suit.
Yeah, I think it's bad. I do, because
it's a bad look.
When you're a broadcaster and you get a chance to prepare and you get a chance to get access to conversation. Look, I go through this. When I'm on a broadcast in the CFL, we have production meetings in advance with coaches, and they're all off camera. And we can get strategic information because they know we're not going to release it. It just gives us an idea of where to train our eyes and where other storylines might be and what to follow. But we don't divulge that stuff. And if you're Tom Brady, you shouldn't be getting access to that stuff if you have the ability to be in a coach's booth with a headset on and even in the offseason making decisions. So I think he's got to pick a lane here. And it's tough because he owns part of a team and he's making huge money, $375 million over 10 years. So he's going to wind up in both roles, but I think they're going to have to make some stronger lines in the sand.
Yeah, I think he's the only person or only former player on the planet who could get away with this. Farhan, get in. They're on the ice right now. Get going. Let's go.
Yeah,
Get going.
You guys are making it harder for me to do my job.
You're late. Let's go. Next week.
Yeah.